One.
Welcome to LeadHER Talks, an open forum for those that support women in exchanging ideas, networking, empowering, enriching, educating, and developing the development of women in the business in all industries. My name is Chantal Camarillo, and I am here joined with my co-founders, my comadres, my mentors, Vanessa Montañez and Rosario Lawrence. Thank you again for tuning in as we discuss time management and provide some insight and some tips as we plan our 2021. So let's face it, time management provides what would be some great ways for us to really plan out whether it's our social life, our work, most importantly, I would say work, our personal life, all into one. But needless to say, time is irreplaceable, right? And so we want to ensure that you walk off with some tangible tips and whatnot that you can start implementing now for 2021, because for me, it's extremely important in terms of my goal setting, when it comes to goal setting, when it comes to managing even my kids' appointments, right? And my work life, right? I kind of integrate both and whatnot. And so what is it that our amazing speaker for today, George Hernandez, is going to share with us that we can probably implement for 2021 or sooner than that. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to my amazing co-founder, Vanessa Montañez, as she introduces our speaker.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to share on today's and read the bio of Mr. George Hernandez. I've had the pleasure of calling him a mentor, a boss, and a friend and colleague for several years. It's going, I don't know, maybe 15 years now that I've known George. But with that, it's been a great experience because George is really a true expert when it comes to time management. I learned a lot from him when I worked for him at Chase. But a little bit about who is this awesome speaker, George. So George Hernandez started in the financial services as a bank teller 23 years ago. And let me tell you, he's moved up the ranks, up the corporate ladder of success, and held a lot of executive positions in leadership, such as business development, relationship manager, and sales and strategy for mortgage banking and for the bank. George holds a bachelor's in science in business from the University of Redland and a master's of business administration from Ohio State University. Part of his commitment to leadership in his community, he holds several positions as a volunteer and a leader, being recognized for several honors, such as he's a corporate advisory board member for ARIA, the Asian Association of America, Asian Real Estate Association of America. He's also the corporate board of governors for NAREP, the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. He's also a Fisher business coach, full-time graduate student at Ohio State University. So anybody getting their master's degree, he's one of the coaches and talks about the importance of time management and goal setting. He's also a relationship manager for the Women's Council of Realtors and VA Rep, the Veteran Association of Real Estate Professionals. So any trade organizations that are out there, he's definitely part of that leadership. And he also was a commencement speaker at the University of Redlands not too long ago. George honorably served his country also in the Marines, and he was born in Southern California. So he is a native, but currently resides with his beautiful wife, Laura, and his 4 children in Columbus, Ohio. With that, I have the pleasure of introducing George and also asking him his first question. What exactly is time management, George, for you, and why is it so important?
Well, first of all, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share a little bit of knowledge. This is really a fun subject for me. Since it was all about time management, of course, I was 15 minutes early, so got on way before you, Vanessa, which is okay. But really, when I think about that, it's really a 2-part question, right? So for me, the time management piece is really controlling all the chaos of life, right? Like Chantal mentioned, kids, school, all this other stuff, work and everything else. Thinking about it from a personal perspective, I have 4 kids ranging from 15 and a half to 2. So since I've known you, Vanessa, that's 4 children ago. It's probably the best way to think about that. and just dealing like with all their activities, their doctor's appointments, and everything else. My wife, family, friends, and we just rescued a dog, so you might hear her barking from time to time. And when I really think about that from a work perspective, I have a very demanding career. I love every moment of it. And just like you, we're on Zoom all day long, back-to-back meetings. Every call is going over. Every call starts a little bit earlier or later, whatever it might be. So for me, it's really reducing the anxieties and kind of controlling all that chaos. Now, when I think about why it's important, well, I'll give you 3 quick examples here and to tell you why it's important to me, right? So first, I've learned that if I don't take my dog out at certain times, there's going to be a mess that I'll have to clean up later, right? And then, with my kids, the older ones at least, they get upset when I forget them at school, or if I'm late, or they're the last ones to get picked up. They don't like that too much, and they're very vocal about it. Or if I'm late to their recitals or performances, right? They let me know that I did something wrong, just like I would let them know if they did something wrong. But and one thing, this is a true story. I was at a national conference, and we all have fun at the national conferences and everything else, and I was being recognized for an achievement for being the top producer of whatever it was at that point in time. I was late. So when, all my peers were getting up there and they're coming to me and I'm running up on stage like, oh God, shaking hands and kissing babies and all of this stuff. Well, that wasn't a good thing for me. So I really thought about that. And I do mess up from time to time. Vanessa, you've never seen that. I'm
no,
kidding.
I haven't.
but really, there's a lot of Georgisms, which I call quotes, and I don't know where this quote came from, but I learned it somewhere along the line. And when I think about it, this is what I tell my kids all the time. If you don't have time to do it right the first time, how are you going to find the time to fix your mistakes? So thinking about the chaos of life, that's like my North Star, so I can stay sane, I can have lower anxieties, and people can associate me, my brand, as I'm there, right? Never late, never making that fashionable entrance. And that's okay, maybe because I'm not fashionably dressed, but that's a whole other topic.
You have to repeat that though, George. Repeat it one more time, because I'm going to jot that down and say that to my kids.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love it. If you don't have time to do it right the first time, how are you going to find time to fix your mistakes? And that's in everything in life, right? If you think about it, like I'm going to go to the car mechanic right there, and they're going to do the job in 15 minutes when the average time is 30, 40 an hour a day, whatever it might be. You're going to get what you pay for, right? Or what you're set up for. So my kids, you want to rush through that exercise and everything else for school, it's okay. It's going to come out in your grade. And I'm going to know how much effort you put into that. Oh, less than a B, no phone. There it is.
I love it. It's just, it hits you, right? You don't have time. You're not doing it now. How are you going to do it later? How are you going to squeeze in that time? So we talk a lot about time management, and it's really aligned with business planning. That's why I'm thinking I had to have you repeat that, because a lot of us are planning for business now, and we have to make the time to really sit down. And it's not just about, at the end of the day, the success or the numbers or whatever background or industry we're involved in, but it's also our families. You talk about managing 4 very busy schedules, right? Your children probably have activities and have schoolwork, daycare, everything that goes along with it. But how are you including your personal life, preparing for your business plan? What do you recommend for 2021? Because with the pandemic, things have really changed and evolved in business and in family life. And they're both together, and we're planning ahead the new normal. What do you recommend, and what did you implement in your own plan that was very different from 2019 going into 2020?
Well, the first thing, Rosario, that's a really good question also, right? It's you got to do something. If you don't do something, you do nothing, that's still something, right? And when I think about it, in October, that's usually at work when the holiday schedule comes, like these are the days we're closed for next year. The very first thing that I do is I plug in all those dates and I plan my vacations, okay? And before I plan the vacations, I have to go ask my wife, like, hey, when is there dance recitals or competitions, or we have to go travel somewhere and make plans, and who's getting married and whose anniversary and all that other stuff, right? And we kind of just put that through, and then we plan our vacations. That's the first thing that I do every time I look at the calendar itself. Things will ebb and flow. Certain things will change, and that's okay because of work. There's going to be, certain meetings that take place, and maybe you have to move something or whatever it might be. But at least I have the big blocks notated, right? Like my anniversary, right? Like I make sure it's all there at the, as soon as that calendar comes out, because I don't want to mess up something, right? I don't want to not show up. And really with that, it reduces the anxieties because I know, this is when we're going to be on vacation, Mom. This is when I'm going to go to California. Hey, friends, I'm going to be there. Vanessa, let's go hiking right there in San Dimas or whatever it is, right? Like by doing that first, I know what my year is going to look like, and then I can start planning towards something, right? Whether it's finding an Airbnb in Temecula wine country or whatever. it's just having that out. So that's the very first thing that I do. Okay, and then from there, that big block's done from a personal perspective, then the work stuff can start to get intertwined into it. For me to be balanced, I have to make sure that my family stuff is done first. Otherwise, things just don't work out, typically. I can recover the ball, fumble, whatever it is, but it comes with anxiety and a little bit of heartburn, and I don't like that. I can only take so many Tums in a day.
That brings up such a good point, George. And, as they say, a happy wife is a happy life. So I love the fact that you're, time blocking first, personal, right? So clearly you're putting your personal life first. And so that was one of my questions in terms of, do you integrate both your personal as well as your work schedule on the program that you leverage? Because I know I do. Right? I have to. It's just the only way I know how to work every day because we're limited. We've got 24 hours a day, right?
That's correct.
And so I do that. And I know there's some settings where you can even specify privacy. So if in case you have a shared calendar, you can click on privacy. So some of that is obviously, off the grid from others viewing, whether it's a doctor's appointment for your kids or you name it. But I love hearing what you're saying because that's exactly what I do first. And so if you can just share that with us in terms of clearly you're doing that, is there any additional tips as you start integrating something like that in your calendar?
Well, I think you hit it on the head, right? So I integrate my personal and work. Yeah, there's certain things, privacy, like, annual physical, I'll put that on private or whatever. But I invite myself from my work computer email to my personal. So everything's there. This meeting today is on both calendars also. So I know exactly what's going on because if one system goes down, at least I have another system of record. Right now, one of the things I will say is when it comes to your company and everything else, make sure that there's, some code of conducts or whatever about sharing calendars and everything else. But regardless, even if I didn't have it on if I couldn't forward it to my personal from my work, I would just plug it in twice. It takes 15 seconds to do it, and it'll save a potential heart attack later on of panic. So that's it, right? Do something. Use whatever is available on work. Whatever you're in the most is what I will say. Whatever you're on the most. Like I have a lot of real estate agent friends that are out there and they spend most of their time on their phone. That's okay, right? Whatever you're on the most should be your primary calendar, and then it should then sync up to the other calendars that you have, right? Make whatever's private that needs to be private. That's okay. If you look at mine, I like crayons. I love to color. Like mine's all color coded. So when it's personal, it's yellow, and I know that's a kid activity that I have to do, right? If it's red or maroon color or something like that, I know that I'm traveling somewhere and I'm probably going to run into you guys at some conference or something like that. Right. So when I look at my calendar from a bird's eye view, it's all colored. I know where I'm going and there's never any questions about it. I probably do, spend a little too much time kind of mastering that out. But what really helps me out is at the end of the day, before I log off and get to my personal life, right? What did I do today? What is going on first thing tomorrow? That way I know what time I'm supposed to wake up. So I can then, get my work in or walk the dog or whatever it might be. But then I can, show up on time also.
Thank you. I that's color coding. I never thought of it, but thank you for sharing.
Oh, it's amazing.
I will share about yours.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm not the only color coder out there.
Oh,
My maroon or my red is actually Zoom virtual meetings, meaning put on the red lipstick on because you have to be on Zoom.
Wait, but
Also, virtual high five right there.
when I was working with George, because we covered a large territory, we get calls a lot. And one thing he would always say, send me a calendar invite. Use my office scheduler so that way you're respectful of his time when he is available, and that way you could schedule it. So that's something I do recommend. I use it, and that's something I learned from George, because the larger you have a pool of employees or projects, you have to time manage yourself and then block it on your calendar so other people know when you're available. So that's a good tip that I did learn from George, and I've used it religiously.
That's really funny you say that, because even if it's somebody outside the organization, right? Like, hey, here's the 3 times that I'm available over the next 2 days. You know, send me a calendar invite for 30 minutes or 45 minutes or whatever it might be. And then we go ahead and connect and we can chat about whatever, right? That's very powerful to have somebody get on your calendar and do it that way. And the best part of all, Vanessa, thinking about that, that's why we use time blocking, right? The green activities or the red activities or whatever it is, there's really 3 things that we do every day, especially from a sales perspective. We're either doing the business and making money, or we're learning how to make the money and we're educating ourselves, or we're spending money, with relationship management. So I think about those 3 there from a sales triangle perspective, and then tie those in. And Rosario, that's where my colors came in, was all from that.
I love it. No, that is awesome. So in your experience, George, what are 3 non-negotiable tips that are critical to time management and goal setting that you practice? So you hear a lot of people have like a weekly review. It's like a non-negotiable standing appointment, things of that nature that could help our leaders out there potentially implement and really kill it in 2021.
Well, that's really, that's a very big question, right? And when I think about it is from a goal setting perspective, what is a goal? And what that makes me think about is the very first time Chris, won't say her last name, but when I broke into the loan originations, or account executive was my title at the time, I didn't have any experience, right? But we talked a lot about goal setting and what I did and how I did it, how I achieved goals. And that was our whole conversation. And when I was hired, I actually sat in her office and she had a big sign behind her. And it said, and here's another quote or a Georgism, goals are nothing more than a dream with a deadline, right? And that was very impactful to me, like, oh my God, like a goal is a dream with a deadline. So if it's not written down somewhere, and if there's not a date of this is what I'm gonna accomplish it, it's not gonna happen. It's just a dream, it's not a goal, right? So when I think through that and the big planning of 2021, it's like, where do you wanna be in the next 3 years from a personal perspective or a goal perspective, from a work? I try to plan my career, and this is one of the things Vanessa and I shared a lot, is plan your career in 3-year intervals, right? You spend your first year learning about the job, your next year mastering it and raising your level of consciousness. And then after that, you're a total unconscious competent. You know exactly what's going on. You could even get bored a little bit, and that's okay. That's why that 3rd year, you're kind of looking at like, what's my next adventure and where do I go? Where do I grow? Right. So when I think about that from a planning perspective, is really, what are the big blocks? Take care of the family first. Okay. And if I want to get to this promotion in 5 years or 10 years, or think about in 18 years, I'm going to retire. And before I retire, I want to achieve this position at work. That's okay. Then back it up. What do you need to do to get there? What are the skills and what are the goals? What are the big goals or the big blocks? And what are the little rocks or the little goals that are going to help you get to those big goals? And just plug them down. I can look at my calendar right now and I can tell you in the summer next year, I'm taking a banking course where I'll be gone out of work, part of my vacation for a week, just learning about how to do better in banking. And ultimately that'll turn into some form of a certificate or degree, right? So it's a 3-year plan, but I'm starting it next year. And it all starts with the calendaring. Of course, I have to ask for permission to take the time off also.
I love it. Is there a specific, quick question, do you use paper or are you completely computerized?
For me, it's simpler to be computerized. I use what my work provides me, and then I sync it up with my personal or with Google or whatever it is. Okay. On the flip side, my wife is totally analog. Okay. Every year she purchases what is it called? It's a planner from Passionate Penny Pincher. Okay. And she literally writes everything out. And the neat thing about that is it's not only daily calendar, and stuff like that. Like, hey, today you're going to, it's a good idea to clean your shower, right? Today it's okay to, wipe down your counters, whatever it is. It kind of keeps her on track from that perspective. But more importantly, as the CFO of our household, it helps us with balancing and budgeting and everything else from our financial perspective. So she's totally analog. I'm totally digital. She shows me her calendar. We reconcile it. We have a business meeting, if you will, every Sunday morning or Saturday morning when the kids are still sleeping. We have our cup of coffee and we go through like, oh, dang it, that bill's due now. Okay, well, let's write that in here. Let's pay that real quick. And oh, what's going on this week? Okay, great. And I'll put it on my calendar so I know what's going on.
That's awesome. So we use that one called Cozy Calendar for those parents out there. I don't know if you've heard of it. Cozy is digital. So I'm digital, but definitely use the Passion Planner. And I have influenced several of my, LOs that worked for me with Chase, and then even now over time. But Cozy is amazing. It syncs with Google. It syncs with even some platforms for companies. If you just basically port it over, and it's amazing. But I was curious whether you're just completely digital. So that's really cool. Thank you for sharing.
Of digital.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So Rosario uses Cozy. I know most corporate companies have Outlook. Is there other platforms and software applications that you use, George? For example, let's say Candly or Doodle or todolist.com. Is there any other softwares that you recommend that you like for goal setting or a calendar?
There really isn't. I'm a very simple guy. I use what the company provides me, and anything more than that might scare me because I have to learn something new. So kind of with this, if it ain't broke, why fix it? So until the company changes it up, that's where everything is. However, in Excel, I do lay up my my short-term, my midterm, and long-term career plans, and what I'm going to do to who's going to help me or who's going to mentor, sponsor, coach me, type of stuff. So I use that in Excel, but all that eventually gets inputted into my calendar anyways. So
and is that
100%.
the software, that Excel, do you share it with your students for the MBA as well for their goal setting? The Excel?
Yeah, I have. We've talked through, planning because, a lot of these kids here are, finishing up their graduate degree and getting ready for their, going through their internships, getting ready to find their, what they're going to do for the rest of their life. So, and again, I said it earlier, plan the career 3-year intervals, 3-year intervals. That's really important. That's how it works for me. That's the same thing I teach them also.
That's great.
Thank you, George, for just the little tidbits of information, insight that you're providing for our Leader Talk audience. But with that, the last question was curious, what does LeadHER mean to you?
Being a father of 2 daughters, I really find this very impactful. And I'm the oldest child, and I have 3 younger sisters, right? So like, this is really important to me because as we grow within social media and we grow with all, virtual content and everything else, your organization and what you guys are doing is really going to be a tool that's going to help these young ladies and really grow to, hey, here's a tool. The biggest thing that I see is, hey, they look like me, right? And if they're able to do that, then I can do it. And here's the tools. Okay, great. Now I just really, you guys are bringing a little bit of curiosity. This is where the hair's standing up in the back of my neck, where there's some curiosity of like, hey, this is a little bit enough to get me hungry to want to learn more. Now maybe I'm going to go search on my own to find what else is out there. Vanessa named a couple, right? I'm going to go Google them right now and find out what are these things, and maybe they can change my life, right? So what you guys are doing is really bringing tools and bringing real life examples so others can see and adopt them or not, and that's okay. But I applaud you for what you guys are doing because this is really, really, really awesome stuff.
Thank you, George. And literally, you did give me a little goosebumps when you said that, because you're absolutely right. We're just here to empower, enrich other individuals that may look like us or want to help other women as well. And so you're one of those. So thank you for being a leader as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. It was such an honor to have you. We go a long way, all the way back to the account executive days, and we've all worked together at one point or another, and we're really grateful to you. And because we know, like you said, you definitely support all women, and with 2 daughters, you know, it's just beautiful what you just said. It really touched me. So with that, everyone, I hope you really enjoyed our episode this week with George Hernandez on time management and had a lot of takeaways. And even if it's just one takeaway, that is great, because as George said, one thing you can go and Google and research more about. So with that, next week, we will be talking a little bit about the COVID, or the way we're celebrating the holidays. Things are a little bit more intimate for some of us, and we will have an etiquette expert next week who will share a couple of tips on how to make it special, and maybe even learn something new and research a little bit more about etiquette and hosting during the holidays in a more intimate setting. So with that, see you all next week. Thank you again, George. It was an honor. Bye, all.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.